Thanks, Colleen. Evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have a long-held belief that we can live our values. Our values are things that are really important to us. Everything we do, everything we say is underpinned by our values. And that's because what we hold dear and what things make life more meaningful are shown in our values. So our values are also embedded in what drives us, what motivates us, and what defines us. So it came to no surprise that in psychology I found that the research supported that alignment, live your values, was the central factor in highly motivated people. And there are other factors as well, and they're all values. So I was really keen to look into this because as I had been doing my long walks and reflecting, I found this really uniquely interesting. Competence is another value that highly motivated or highly motivated teams have. Competence is about knowing exactly what to do and how to do it. If you don't know that, you can't be motivated to do a task. Fun, it's about that lovely ability that some people have to make work into play. Having the passion about your work or your play. Mindset, it's about having a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. Being open to learning and feedback. Challenge, it's about a sense of struggle. All the achievements that we've ever been proud of usually have some extension of ourselves in it or a sense of struggle. And I heard a really good example the other day from the radio. There was a consultant working with one of the Middle East countries and they had invested in their citizens because they were oil rich. And with their money, they paid off all the debt of every citizen in the country. And they gave a land and house package for every young married couple. And of course there was free university, free health, free services. And to their surprise and disappointment, they found that 3 years later, when they measured their happiness of their citizens on the world scale, when they had consultants come back in, it had significantly taken a downturn. And that's because they'd taken the struggle out of their citizens' lives. Connectedness. Highly motivated people have other people that they can relate to. You know, being able to share your excitement and share your achievements, or being able to go home and tell somebody about it is important. Equity refers to our needs, and as Maslow would refer, our basic needs have to be met before our higher needs. For example, you can't actually get excited about something or committed to something and highly motivated to something if you're hungry or frightened. Autonomy, the last need or the last value. Autonomy is about having the freedom to choose, having some sense of freedom in your task. So it would be much easier for me to talk about living your values if I was to talk about organisational leadership or my high school management work or any of my work, because I have a real passion and a love for my work. But I thought tonight I'd tell you my story of living my values through sea glass. So what is sea glass? Sea glass is actually just very old glass that's been tumbled smooth to be pebble-like by the wave ocean and by currents and by sandblasting. And you find it on the beach, local beaches and beaches around the world. You may hear other names from sea glass: mermaid tears, ocean gems, sea treasures. And there are a few that I found locally. It comes in many colours. Some are colours that are very much rarer than others because the colours reflect the type of containers, bottles, glass bottles and containers and dishes that we have made over the last couple of 100 years. And some of the colours like red are actually quite valuable, and to buy them it's at least $100 for a very smooth one if you're making a ring or a little necklace. This is called sea foam, my favourite colour. It's actually very common, and you'll see it on the beach here at home, and a lot of it comes from old Coke bottles. This purple glass is really interesting because there was never any bottles made in the purple colour. So if you find a piece that's old, and you can tell whether it's old once you've been collecting for a while because it's got bubbles and it's thicker, and you hold it up to the light and you can see the age, it actually used to be clear, but they put a chemical in the glass to make sure that they tried to neutralise any impurities, and that oxidised in the sun over many years and it became pale or deep purple. So whenever you find a purple piece on the beach, you actually know that that bottle or container was made before 1915. Black glass is my favourite. Black glass can be found locally. There's not very many places in the world that you can actually find black glass. Black glass is unique like that, because it looks like that, because it was all made before 1880. It's really thick shards, and it's thick because they used to have beer and wine bottles that were made that they could ship and they wouldn't break in the cargo. And you find it in big smooth shards, and it's got this slag in it. You hold it up to the light and it's actually green, dark green, but it's fascinating. And we actually find that along our local coast. These really fascinated me when I found them in a pond. And they look like little jellyfish, but they were actually, it took me quite a while to work out what they were, because I found them early in my collection, and I didn't know enough about it, I didn't have the expertise. They are actually push-ups. They're actually the bottom of one of these 1880 champagne bottles. They made them in England and they shipped them all over the world. And they look like that. These are pontils. A pontil is a piece of glass that you can find on the beach only in Seaham in England. And there used to be an old glass-making factory. And at the end of the day, they would actually hold the handmade bottle with the pontil rod, push the base of the bottle up, and put a little bit of glass on the end of the pontil rod. So that little spot that you see is actually the base of the bottle. And at the end of the day, they call it end of the day glass too, they used to throw it in the North Sea. And today you can find them, they're at least 150 years old, and they're a delight to find. These are bubble seals from an 1880 case gin bottle. Wonderful to find them all sea glassed and smoothed. This was interesting because at some time they used to take off the bottles after the sheer tops were made with a whip, if you had that skill. And this one has actually got the typical whip marks on it, and it's a perfect little cut, and it's just like a little donut. These are from Japan. I found them on the beaches in Japan. They still use the little glass balls on the nets, floats. But what's fascinating about them is sometimes you find these little wriggly, I call them belly buttons, and they're sea glassed, and they're actually the little centre of the floats. These glasses I tracked down to being 1905, from about 1880, the Emu Park pubs used to have a set of water glasses, and they were once white, and I find lots of those. Stillness. Stillness is a value that I've found that I need to embed in my life, because I think we lead very, very busy lives. And I find that my time on the beach collecting sea glass, I can reflect. And there's a saying that you can only see your reflection in still water. You need that time out. You need that time to slow down. Simplicity. This is one of my favourite pieces It was found at Kui Bay, and it was a crystal bowl around 1890. And it's just beautiful and smooth and has that last little pattern on it. These I found in California. Of course, we love the beach, and we think a lot of beaches are beautiful, but this is my particularly most beautiful place, Bora Bora. I found sea glass along the islands there. Achievement. Achievement is a value that I have to embed in my life. I feel like I need to move forward continuously. I don't like to say that I'm driven. It just is a pleasure to be able to keep learning. There's nothing more pleasurable than a sea glass collector coming home and putting their finds out on the sink and washing them and putting them all in order. I think I actually have a value too that must be around order, because I categorise them all and put them in their little colours and their countries. These were found in Australia. That was over a month. These were found in the US. Glass Beach at Fort Bragg, which is really interesting. These were found in Bahamas in Eleuthera. Sometimes you find unique little things which inspires you to keep looking. That little button there is some sort of brass 1800 button, and I've still yet, and if you know what it is, let me know, still yet to find out exactly what it is. Creativity. It doesn't matter what I have done throughout my life, even as a child, I've always painted or drawn. So I have been able to find ways to be creative with sea glass. And of course, photography is one. I can spend hours photographing a little shard with different light and different treatments. They're actually a set that I found on the one beach that day, so I took them home and photographed them and put them together so that I remember where I found them. That lime sea glass is very rare. I have started drawing sea glass, so I have a series of drawings and paintings of sea glass. This is a little chapel in Guernsey. Guernsey is an island between France and England, and because of its history, they have so much sea glass and pottery washing up on the shores that the locals have put it all together around the tiles, the mosaic tiles of the chapel. It's beautiful. This is called fire glass. It's melted glass, and you can play around with the light and it gets that opal effect. My mother-in-law found this locally. Adventure. Adventure is a value that I can't live without. Going to Fort Bragg in California is a mecca for sea glass collectors. It has this beach which literally is just glass. So you're able to actually collect to your heart's delight. Another mecca, Positano in Italy. It was an adventure because literally from Rome it took us to, you may have been there, 2 trains, 2 buses and a donkey, a tunnel and a trek up the cliff face to get to our accommodation. And we actually didn't have anything booked, and that's why we had to go for a bit of a trek. But the sea glass that you find in Positano or the little island Capri has amazing pottery and porcelain pieces. And you only have to sit down and dig right beside you about 10 centimetres down. And a lot of blue and green glass. Challenge. I have had lots of challenges collecting sea glass, and I do need challenge. I need to be stretched in my work and my play. The biggest challenge I had was actually quite exciting, and it really did motivate me. I was reading on the blogs online. There's a whole world out there of a network of sea glass collectors, and they kept talking about this cave in Bermuda, and no one said where it was because a sea glass collector doesn't give up their sites. So I read the blogs over a course of about 18 months, and I had enough clues that I wrote down every time I saw one to actually get a bit of a treasure map, I called it, put together by hand. So we flew to Bermuda, and I gave my husband this map, and there's no signs, of course. It was remote where this cave was. In about an hour, he's smarter than I am. He actually found the cave, and there was nothing more enjoyable than sitting on that cave, and the whole floor was just treasures, sea glass from the shipwrecks over the centuries. It was just beautiful, and I took photos of it. That's another adventure to Eleuthera, very remote island in the Bahamas, but has incredible sea glass because no one's collecting it on that island. I think one of my first values, besides health, is love. Being able to spend the time with a loved one, even if they don't share your passion. I guess what I've learned out of sea glass collecting is that the things that you bring you together are stronger than the fences that set you apart. And we share that time, and we do have a common, I guess, a common passion for islands and everything ocean. And we have been on so many exotic picnics together, because I'll go after the sea glass, and Calvin doesn't mind actually going surfing and boating. Wonder. I hope I never lose the wonder in life. Wilderness and wildlife. I photographed that as I see. I have a huge interest in wildlife, and that was a seal on Glass Beach in Hawaii. Fitness, of course, we walk miles and miles and miles, so it sort of takes care of that too, most of the time. Expertise. Expertise is important. You know, they say it takes 10 years to be master at something, and it's really adds enjoyment and motivates you when you actually get a deep knowledge of something. And it takes a while to track down and research where the shards come from, and these are a few that I've tracked down and matched. So there's the castor oil bottle top there. These are from depression glass bowls, and they are champagne pink, and they were found in the Caribbean. That's from a salad oil bottle. That's a beautiful treasure that my mother-in-law found here locally. It's the perfect end sea glassed of a torpedo bottle. Soda siphon bottles, the old marbles in the old soda cod bottles. Freedom. The wide open spaces allow me freedom. I think sometimes we're limited by our own thinking. You know, if we don't actually have boundaries, personal boundaries for ourselves, or if we don't say no to things. So it gives me time to reflect through whether all my decisions have been anchored into integrity and accountability rather than being blown, you know, with the wind and being influenced by events. Connectedness. There's a whole network out there, as I said before. And finally, joy. There's nothing more joyful than finding a special piece. It may not mean anything to anybody else, but you will have your sea glass in something else, your love and passion in something else. So my message, I guess, is what is your sea glass? Are you following your bliss? Are you putting your big rocks in your life first, your values first in your life? Is there alignment? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.